I never thought I'd end up the main character in a neighborhood drama, but that's exactly how it played out. It started with a simple notification on my phone. Usually, that cheerful ping meant my groceries had arrived, but this time it marked the beginning of one of the strangest situations I'd faced in the 3 short months since moving into Cedar Ridge Estates. When I opened the alert and pulled up my doorbell camera's live feed, the image was crystal clear. There she was, a woman in oversized sunglasses and a wide sun visor, sneaking up to my front porch at exactly 2:15 in the afternoon. She glanced around nervously, then grabbed both of my grocery bags like they belonged to her, and hurried off with the confidence of someone who didn't expect to be questioned. The most unbelievable part? She had no idea my camera had recorded everything. Every glance, every movement, every step across my lawn. And when I replayed the footage, my jaw nearly hit the floor. It wasn't just any neighbor. It was Brenda Kensington, our HOA president. The same Brenda, everyone politely addressed by name, but quietly referred to as Karen the moment she wasn't around. The same woman who once scolded me for leaving my trash cans visible for exactly 7 minutes after pickup day, now casually stealing my groceries in broad daylight. I watched the clip 3 more times, my disbelief slowly shifting into something closer to confirmation. For weeks, small items have been going missing from my deliveries. Apples one day, eggs another. I'd always assumed it was a mistake by the delivery service. Never once did I consider that someone in this perfectly maintained, gated neighborhood was helping themselves to my porch. And certainly not the person constantly emailing everyone about standards and property values. I'm a software developer working from home, and my schedule is packed with meetings and long coding sessions that stretch into the night. Grocery delivery isn't just convenient, it's necessary. Without it, I'd probably be living off vending machine snacks from the gym down the road. So when my groceries started disappearing, it wasn't just irritating. It threw off my entire routine. That afternoon, the delivery had arrived at 2:05 p.m., right in the middle of the meeting I couldn't step away from. 10 minutes later, when I finally checked the porch, everything was gone. No bags, no receipt, nothing. That's when I checked the footage and saw the truth. What bothered me most wasn't just the theft. It was the boldness of it. Brenda, the same woman who welcomed me to Cedar Ridge with a thick binder of HOA rules and a warning about keeping the neighborhood in line, had casually walked up and taken my food like it was hers. She'd already come by twice to complain about my lawn being a 1/4 inch too tall and my mailbox needing to be repainted in the official shade of Oakwood cream. And now she was stealing oat milk. At first, I didn't know how to respond. Part of me wanted to storm over and confront her, but another part of me understood something important. Evidence matters, and I had it. So I did something I hadn't planned. I sent the video to the local police department's non-emergency email with a brief explanation. Then, keeping things completely professional, I forwarded the same footage to the other HOA board members, along with a polite message raising concern about suspicious activity on my property. What happened next surprised me. Within an hour, my phone started lighting up with messages from neighbors. Turns out, I wasn't the only one. The Hendersons said a package of steaks had disappeared the week before. The elderly couple on the corner mentioned missing medication deliveries. Twice. Suddenly, a pattern was clear. Brenda had been doing this for a while, and no one had spoken up. That evening, I glanced out my office window and saw a police cruiser parked outside her picture-perfect colonial home, the one with a flawless lawn and precisely trimmed flower beds. My desk faced her driveway, and through the blinds, I watched as 2 officers approach her door. When she answered, she was holding what looked suspiciously like a carton of oat milk, the exact brand I had ordered. Even from a distance, I could see her expression shift from confusion to outrage as they spoke to her. The next morning brought the confrontation I'd been expecting. At 7:30 a.m., my doorbell rang. I was barely halfway through my first cup of coffee when I opened the door and found Brenda standing there, her face flushed, arms crossed, foot tapping impatiently. "I know what you did," she snapped immediately, her tone sharp with accusation. "You sent that ridiculous video to the police and the HOA board. Do you have any idea how humiliating that was for me?" I kept my voice steady, even though my pulse picked up. "Good morning, Brenda. Would you like to come in and talk about this calmly?" She didn't wait for permission. She pushed past me into the living room like she owned the place. "There's nothing to discuss," she said. "That video is obviously edited. Anyone can see that. I would never steal anything, especially groceries. I drive a Mercedes." I gestured toward a chair, but she ignored it, choosing instead to stand and glare. "I don't appreciate being falsely accused," she continued, her voice trembling with indignation. "I'm the president of this HOA. I have a reputation to protect. I'm seriously considering legal action for defamation." She stood there, arms crossed, chin raised, fully committed to the act. Then my phone chimed again. I glanced down and felt my heartbeat skip. My replacement grocery delivery had just arrived. Brenda noticed the notification too. I saw the exact moment realization hit her. Her entire expression shifted, replaced by a sudden, overly sweet smile. "I'll be right back," she said lightly. "I just remembered I left something in my car." Of course she did. I followed her to the door and stepped outside just in time to see her bending down, again, to pick up my grocery bags. The delivery driver was only halfway to their car when they turned and froze at the scene. "Is there a problem with the delivery?" the driver asked, confused. Brenda straightened immediately, adjusting her visor like it was a crown. "No problem at all," she said smoothly. "I'm just helping my neighbor bring his groceries inside. He has a bad back, don't you, dear?" "My back's fine, Brenda," I replied calmly. "And those are my groceries, just like the ones you took yesterday, and probably the week before that." The driver's eyes widened. Without another word, they got into their car and left, clearly not wanting to be involved. Brenda's expression flickered. Sympathy, irritation, panic. But she recovered quickly, forcing out a strained laugh. "You're overreacting," she said. "It was an honest mistake. Deliveries get mixed up all the time. I thought they were mine." I nodded slowly. "An easy mistake to make, except my name and address are on the receipt. And you didn't order groceries yesterday, did you?" Her face flushed deep red. "This is ridiculous. I don't have time for this. I have an HOA meeting to prepare for." She turned to leave, then froze as a police cruiser pulled up to the curb. The same two officers from the night before stepped out, their expressions calm but firm. "Mrs. Kensington," one of them said, "we'd like to ask a few more questions about yesterday's incident." What followed was uncomfortable, but satisfying. After reviewing the footage and speaking with multiple residents, the officers explained they had reason to believe there was a pattern of theft. They asked for permission to look inside her home. At first, she refused, her voice rising as she protested. But something in their tone made it clear cooperation was in her best interest. Reluctantly, she agreed. I didn't go inside, but later my neighbor told me everything. The moment officers entered her immaculate home, they found at least 3 separate grocery deliveries sitting in her kitchen, bags and boxes labeled with other people's names and addresses. My missing apples and coffee beans were right there on her counter. And that wasn't all. Another neighbor provided footage of Brenda taking packages from their porch on 2 different occasions. Faced with that, her story started to fall apart. First denial, then confusion. Then a strange claim that she'd been collecting misdelivered items to return them. Some kind of unsolicited community service. The turning point came when officers asked about a missing package belonging to an elderly couple, prescription medication. When they mentioned it was a controlled substance, her face reportedly went pale. "I didn't know what was in those packages," she said, her voice finally cracking. "I was just trying to keep the neighborhood tidy." That afternoon, the entire neighborhood watched as a patrol car pulled up outside her pristine home. She was in handcuffs, but her posture said everything. Shoulders slumped, confidence gone. Her designer outfit and perfect hair looked strangely out of place under the flashing lights. As officers escorted her to the car, she turned to the neighbors watching from driveways and windows. "This is all a misunderstanding," she insisted. "I've done more for this neighborhood than any of you. I pay more in HOA dues than most of you combined. I protected property values here for 8 years. No one responded. The silence spoke louder than anything else. The legal consequences came quickly. Brenda Kensington, our self-appointed enforcer of perfection, was charged with multiple counts of petty theft. The stolen prescription medication elevated one charge to a more serious level. At her hearing, she was ordered to pay restitution to every neighbor she'd taken from, over $2,000 total, along with court fees. She received 6 months of probation and was sentenced to complete 100 hours of community service. That same week, the HOA board held an emergency meeting and unanimously voted to remove her as president. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The same strict rules she enforced had ultimately led to her downfall. When the verdict was read, her carefully maintained composure finally broke. "This will ruin me," she whispered, tears streaking down her face. "My clients will find out my reputation is everything." The judge remained unmoved. "Perhaps you should have considered that before taking what didn't belong to you, Mrs. Kensington." As her attorney guided her out, she glanced back at me one last time. The same woman who once criticized my lawn for being a quarter-inch too high now looked small, powerless, and completely defeated. For the first time since moving into Cedar Ridge Estates, I felt like I truly belonged. Not because I followed every rule, but because I finally stood up for what was right.